Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. My name is Arif, and tonight I will be your guide as we embark on a journey that will guide us through the sleepy, peaceful worlds of the people of antiquity. We will explore the land of sleep with Morpheus, the god of dreams, as he spends a serene night guiding people through their deepest longings, passing divine messages to them, and helping them find serenity and comfort both within themselves and without. Before we embark on this journey together, however, let us take a moment to relax and find comfort in the place that we are in, here and now. Close your eyes and allow your body to sink into the mattress beneath you. There are no obligations here. There is no to-do list. By simply closing your eyes and listening to the sound of my voice, you are already giving your body the rest that it deserves. The sleep will come in due time, but the rest has already begun. With your eyes still closed and your body sinking deeper and deeper into the mattress with each breath you take, I want you to try and imagine that you are not in your bed at all. Instead, you are lying on top of plush, soft, fresh grass. You feel the grass and soil gently cradling your body, inviting you to let go of any tension you might be feeling and simply be. You can smell the bright, citrusy aroma of the grass around you and the earthy, soothing smell of the soil beneath you. But along with those lovely, relaxing scents, there is something even more beautiful that you are breathing in with each breath. You smell wildflowers, and when you look around you, you discover that you are not just lying in the grass. You are lying in a stunning, expansive field full of beautiful wildflowers. The world around you is a mosaic of pink, orange, yellow, blue, green, purple. A rainbow splashed across the delicate and wild petals of the flowers that are peppered around this meadow. You breathe in a little deeper, feeling that fresh air fills your lungs with nourishment, and that freshness brings instant relaxation. It tastes and smells of those flowers all around you. Daisies and roses and peonies and lavender. Their sweetness puts you even more at ease, and with every breath, the aroma seems to lessen and lessen until it is just a sweet, invigorating haze against the freshness of the summer breeze. You watch that summer breeze as it ripples across the tops of the flowers, causing them to sway with the wind. It is quite a spectacle to behold, this perpetual dance that can only be found in nature. As you breathe in, you notice the wind quiet down. Bright sunflower bees buzz from still flower to still flower, collecting pollen on their fuzzy bodies. And as you exhale, you notice that the wind begins to blow softly, rippling across the bed of flowers gently, ever so gently. You breathe in, noticing the stillness around you. The bees on the flowers popping against the color of their petals. And then you breathe out, watching that breeze glide and dance over the flowers. You breathe in, watching the flowers nourish the bees as your breath nourishes you. And then you breathe out, watching the breeze ripple across the tops of the beautiful flowers. With each inhale and each exhale, you feel more and more relaxed. Overhead, a few flowers are whisked away on the sweet, soothing summer breeze. They dip and dive, rise and fall, flying through the air without a care in the world. You follow them along the horizon until they finally land on the far side of the field and begin to rest, much like you are now. You watch a yellow petal catch the wind overhead. It dips and then rises, swoops to the right, then to the left, until finally it lands softly in a patch of evergreen grass on the far side of the field. As the petal lands, you feel a sense of peace wash over you. Tonight, you feel much like that petal, journeying slowly and serenely through the breeze. And deep within yourself, you trust that you, too, will soon be still for the night. Now that we have taken the time to relax and find comfort in the place that we are in here and now, let us begin our journey through the dreams of the people of old with Morpheus, the god of dreams. The land of dreams was a remarkable, wonderful place found in a rather peculiar setting. Deep, deep within the underworld, where Hades ruled, there was a land that he could not set foot in. Just beyond the still, calm waters of the river of forgetfulness, there was a palace where very few resided. This palace, the Palace of Hypnos, was the largest structure in the land of dreams, an expansive, otherworldly stretch of land nestled up against the river and the very edges of Hades. The land of dreams was far from what many imagined it to look like. Even in the darkness of the underworld, where only dim candlelight and bits of sunlight that managed to leak through the rocks overhead illuminated everything, there was a sprawling field of wildflowers. This was not an ordinary field either. It was a field of dreams with a purpose. The field was overflowing with chamomile, lavender, and poppy, a sea of yellow, purple, and orange, bright, inviting colors that seemed to contrast the darkness of the world around it. And, indeed, the land of dreams contrasted the world around it. There was a magic to the land, to the meadows around it, to the castles within it. They all seemed to have a glow about them, a glow that should be impossible so deep beneath the ground. But if there's one place where anything is possible, it is there. The palace was constantly illuminated in that silvery haze, a gossamer that made it appear almost as if the palace itself was somewhere deep within a long forgotten dream. Some said the glow came from the power of the moon, that the glow was merely a reflection of the moonlight that could be found above ground every night, while others disagreed. Within the palace, Hypnos could be found. Hypnos was an ancient god, one of the oldest, and was known by many to be a rather lazy god. However, he had his reasons. When you are the god of sleep, a personification of sleep, it is understandable that you may spend a fair amount of time lounging in the silver glow of your palace. Though Hypnos was the god of sleep, he did not act alone. His 3 children also guided him in his work every single night. His children, who are known as Oneiroi, the personification of dreams. Fovitor appeared in dreams of humans in the form of animals, and sometimes scary monsters of nightmares that had no real meaning. His brother, Fondosos, appeared in dreams in the form of inanimate objects like earth, rocks, water, trees, and other lifeless things that created unusual, otherworldly dreams, dreams that also had no real meaning, but no real harm within them either. And then there was the leader of the Oneiroi, Morpheus. Fovitor and Fondosos were able to influence the dreams of people, of the mortals all over the ancient lands. Whenever someone experienced a strange or scary dream in the cool hours of the night, it was the doing of one of those two brothers. Morpheus, on the other hand, wasn't a god of nightmares, nor of fantastical journeys through the human mind. Morpheus was able to influence dreams in a prophetic, positive way. Often, he even took it upon himself to save humans from the nightmares or strange fantasies his brothers plagued them with. He observed the dreams around the land, making sure everyone was getting exactly what they needed. But it wasn't just humans that Morpheus was able to influence. Unlike his brothers, Morpheus was able to influence the minds and dreams of powerful rulers, gods, and goddesses. His powers within the safety of dreams were unmatched, a great power that allowed him to positively influence the world around him. And truly, that was the ancient god's goal. Every night, Morpheus would gather with his brothers in his father's palace. They would stand in the great hall, surrounded by the breathtaking glow of the silver moonlight. Often, they would share a cup of steaming chamomile tea, gathered and dried from their very fields. They would stand over the steam, breathing in the sweet, relaxing aroma as they prepared themselves for the night that lay ahead. Morpheus would take his final sip, a long, lingering sip, where he really allowed himself to taste the sweet softness of the tea, the earthiness of the flowers from their field. As he took that sleepy sip of chamomile, he could always feel his eyelids getting heavier and heavier. He knew that sleep was on the horizon, that soon he would be descending into the dreams of others. He would set the tea down on the smooth clay saucer with a gentle clink. His brothers would give him a nod of understanding as they set down their own steaming cups that had just an ounce of chamomile tea left kissing the rim. They would bow to each other and make their way to their rooms, knowing that soon they would see each other again, even if it was as ships passing in the night. This particular night, Morpheus made his way out of his father's palace, a palace adorned in gold decor and candles that flickered amber light across the plush rugs that lined the corridors. Walking on them felt like walking on a cloud, so much so that Morpheus felt almost like floating as he made his way across them. As he stepped out of his father's palace, he could see his brothers in the distance, on the other side of the meadow. They were walking away from him, their backs turned as they meandered through the meadow to reach their homes on the far side. Caves carved in the towering rock walls that encompassed the meadow. Morpheus turned to walk to his own cave. It was in the far corner of the meadow, nestled against the river. It was the most remote of all the dwellings here, but he certainly didn't mind. He liked the calm, sleepy walk that he took to his cave. The way the chamomile and lavender and poppies brushed over his skin as he swam his way through them. The way their fragrance lifted up to greet him on the breeze, calming him more and more with every step that he took. It was as if he was making his way through a spa. When he finally reached the cave on this peaceful night, he looked over his home with a smile on his face. The cave was illuminated by candles lining the walls, flickering, beautiful candles that made the tiny, cozy home radiant like a heavenly sanctuary. They were magical candles, candles that could burn endlessly, with wax and wicks that changed color whenever Morpheus wanted them to. Tonight, they were a warm, comforting orange, a color that matched the flowers blanketing the floor of Morpheus's home. Poppies took up every inch of space on the floor of his cave. It was his own little sea of orange and yellow, a brilliant mosaic of warmth in a place so remote and secluded. But they weren't ordinary poppies. They were magical poppies, poppies that did not break or bend under his steps. As he made his gentle steps across the floor, the poppies would spring back up into their original position the moment he removed his foot from them. They were full of the magic of sleep, and they themselves helped make Morpheus sleepy. He waded through the beautiful poppies, watching as their petals gently bent and then sprung back into place as he brushed against them. He crawled into bed, a plush, cozy bed tucked away in the back of the cave. He sunk into it the moment that he lay down. The bed itself seemed to embrace him, contouring perfectly to his body and welcoming him to a night of peaceful, tranquil rest. He pulled several blankets over his body, heavenly blankets made of freshly woven cloth by one of the godly artisans. The weight of the blankets pressed down on his body in a way that made him feel safe, secure, and incredibly comfortable. The moment the soft blankets pressed down on him, his eyes began to close. The fragrant aroma of the poppies danced over his body, urging him towards sleep. A gentle breeze swept in the room, adding a chill to the space that only made the blankets over his body feel more warm and comfortable. And gradually, just as the blankets had risen up over his body, sleep came over him. For a few moments, he was in that sparkly, wonderful place between being awake and asleep. All he could think about was how comfortable the bed felt, how wonderful the poppies smelled, how incredibly calm he was as the lure of sleep became increasingly powerful. And then he was asleep. But sleep for Morpheus was very, very different from what other people experienced in that state. Because as soon as Morpheus's eyes closed and he was fully asleep, his soul would separate from his body. On this cool, peaceful night, Morpheus gracefully and painlessly floated above his body, shaking away the sleepiness from his body and stretching in the cool night air. For when he was asleep, and when the world was asleep, was when Morpheus did what he was made to do. He unfurled his wings, taking a deep breath as he did so. His wings unfurled from his back, beautiful snow-white wings that looked like they belonged to an angel. They had been a gift from his uncle Thanatos, who bestowed them upon him at a young age, so he could reach those who were struggling in their dreams with ease. His wings allowed him to help those who had been caught up in nightmares, but they also allowed him to carry his father, Hypnos, when it was needed. His father was the only one living in the land of dreams, without wings aiding him, and it was often up to Morpheus to carry him through the beautiful landscape to do his job. Ready for another night of tending to people's dreams, Morpheus drifted out of the cave, feeling the refreshing night air breeze over him as he flew just above the flowers. He felt them brush against his skin as he glided over the meadow with his arms outstretched. His wings flapped gently against his back, allowing him to sail effortlessly like a bird through an indigo blue sky. Then Morpheus came in for a landing before a set of gates. The gates were tall, nestled just against the river. The gates were peppered with intricate designs, moons, stars, poppies, and lavender, all reminders of the purpose of the land that they were in. His brothers, Fovitor and Fondosos, landed beside him, their black and gray wings glistening beautifully in what little moonlight was leaking in through the cracks in the cavern that led to the world above. Before them, the gate was split into two. The gate before Morpheus was made of horn, representing both true dreams and divine dreams. His brothers, on the other hand, stood before a second gate made of ivory, which represented dreams that held no true meaning, dreams of fantasy or dreams of fear. On this night, as he did most nights, Morpheus gave his brothers a little nod, and as soon as he did, the gates before them flew open, giving them access to the full world of dreams just beyond. Fovitor and Phantasos smiled at Morpheus and flapped their wings, taking off into their land of fantasy, of illusion. Morpheus watched as their gate closed, signaling that they were off doing their jobs. And then it was his turn. He flapped his brilliant white wings and disappeared through the gate. There was a flash of dazzling, soft light that was made up of swirling colors. It was as though he was watching a painter, mixing watercolors in a glass. All around him were swaths of purple, pink, blue, and green, a stunning mix of colors that made him feel as though he was walking through a dream. And then he found himself floating in an otherworldly place. There was plush grass beneath his feet, a pathway lined with lavender and wild chamomile on each side, like they had been planted there to welcome him to this place. This was where Morpheus could reach out to those in dreams. Unlike anyone else, Morpheus could reach out to the gods, goddesses, and rulers of the world. He had the ability to take any form he wanted and mimic any human he pleased. And because of his kind soul, Morpheus used this ability for good each and every night. This night in particular, Morpheus set out to help some humans that he knew were struggling. He had heard a woman praying to Zeus at her bedside only hours earlier. She wanted to open a bakery of her own, to sell homemade goods to those in the community. But she was fearful that she may fail. She prayed to Zeus for strength and for guidance, for she was unsure if she could pull off such a task. Morpheus knew in his heart that the woman could be successful, and so, with kindness and patience radiating through his being, he waited for her to fall asleep. When she finally did drift off to dreamland, a path of golden light began to form in the grass beside Morpheus, a path that was leading him to her, leading him to the place where her dream was starting. he followed the path, unsure of exactly what he would find where it led, but unafraid. He could control any dreams that he found himself in, and he knew this would be no different. A wave of light washed over Morpheus, and he found himself no longer standing on grass. Instead, he was standing on something rather plush and cozy. When he looked down closer, he became more confused. The ground beneath him was porous and a warm, wheat color. When he took a deep breath of the air, he realized exactly where he was. He was standing on a sliced loaf of bread, a massive loaf of bread the size of a room. In fact, he wasn't just on a piece of bread. He was on a piece of bread on a counter, surrounded by baking supplies. There were clay bowls around him with big loaves of fragrant, warm dough rising. There was white flour sprinkled across the stone counter like freshly fallen snow on a cool December morning. He stepped off of the loaf of bread, a bit delighted by the softness of the middle and the crunchy roughness of the crust. As he walked across the flour, he left footsteps in it, footsteps that told the tale of the journey that he had just embarked on. He found the woman, Delphine, trying to climb up into a bowl to work on her bread. She was muttering to herself, concerned that she was unable to reach the rim of the bowl. She looked to the sky and asked Zeus for help, completely unaware that Morpheus was just behind her. Knowing it was Zeus that Delphine was hoping to receive answers from, Morpheus did what he knew was best. With ease, he transformed himself into Zeus. He had the white hair, the muscles, the beard, the intimidating look on his face. He could even make himself walk and talk exactly like Zeus. It was true. Morpheus could replicate anyone within seconds and mimic them perfectly. But he often avoided pretending to be Zeus. The god could be a little temperamental, after all. Being able to control dreams, Morpheus stepped up behind Delphine. He placed his hand on the massive bowl of proofing bread, and the moment that he did, it began to shrink before their very eyes. Delphine watched in amazement as the bowl shrunk to fit in her hands. She picked up the bowl, quivering slightly. She couldn't believe that Zeus was standing before her. She thanked him for answering her cries and confessed that she no longer knew what she was doing. She wanted to open her bakery. She wanted to put her savings into it, but she was unsure. Still posing as Zeus, Morpheus smiled and put a kind hand on her shoulder. He told her that she needed to open the bakery that she should stop doubting herself, and that in the end she would bring joy to her family and her community. Delphine breathed a big sigh of relief. She bowed to the god, thanking him for making her path clear. Happy tears welled in her eyes as she worked on the bread in her bowl. It, much like her dream, was much more manageable now that she had heard those words from Zeus. Knowing his job was finished with Delphine, Morpheus gave her a nod, bid her farewell, and made his way back into the Hall of Dreams. Just as his feet touched the soft grass of the pathway, another pathway lit up. Morpheus followed it, and this time he was surprised to see that the pathway led to Hera. It was tricky business interfering with the dreams of gods, but Morpheus knew it was his job, and his job alone. And before he even stepped into the dream, he knew exactly what this was about. Recently, Hera had grown wildly jealous of a nymph down on Earth that her husband Zeus had eyes for. She had been stewing on the nymph for weeks, trying to come up with a plan for sabotage, trying to do anything she could to rid herself of the jealousy that she felt. She was considering making a poisonous flower grow next to the nymph's bed. Morpheus knew of the nymph that Hera was angry with. She was a compassionate, kind nymph, but provided much comfort and love for the community around her. She had no interest in Zeus, and it would be a tragedy to lose someone like her. So, Morpheus descended into Hera's dream. He found her in the woods, kneeling beside the nymph's bed as she planted the flower. Rather than taking someone's form, Morpheus decided to sway Hera away from this idea the old-fashioned way. He influenced other nymphs and creatures in the forest to see Hera place the poisonous flower. They all reacted in horror, devastated that the goddess Hera would do such a thing. Immediately, Hera was overcome with shame, a shame stronger than her own jealousy. She plucked the flower from the earth and went on her way. Morpheus spent the rest of the night working through people's dreams and helping them out of nightmares. Every dream that he stepped into, he influenced in a positive way. He urged a king not to go to war. He convinced a soldier to return home and propose to the woman he loved. He helped some of the gods and goddesses make important decisions that would better the world. And when he was finally finished for the night, Morpheus woke up in his own bed, his wings folded into his back as he stretched beneath the covers, feeling their comforting weight pressing down on him. Even though he had spent the night helping others, he was refreshed and invigorated. Truly, he was the person who had the sweetest dreams of all. I hope you have enjoyed this sleep story, and it has brought you a night of peaceful, regenerative sleep. Please join me again tomorrow night for another sleep story. Until then, sweet dreams.